Invitation from the divine arena. The stars flickered like dying embers above Earth's upper orbit, their light distorted slightly by the glimmering edges of humanity's newest pride, the Deadless Ascendant, a quantum relay station tethered to the moon's dark side. It was here, on a quiet rotation cycle, that the signal came. It wasn't radio. It wasn't digital. It was other, a multi-layered pulse that bypassed time and encryption, skipping past humanity's finest security protocols as if they were child's locks on a toy chest. It spoke not in words, but in symbols that twisted into understanding the moment they were seen. You are invited to the tournament of the Ascended. Present your champion. No sender. No coordinates. No context. Just the message. 4 hours, Earth's highest minds debated its origin. Was it a prank? A trap? Some alien culture's social experiment? Yet across multiple star systems, other species had gone silent, vanished or quieted, as though preparing for something too ancient for records and too sacred for explanation. That was when Project Pantheon was quietly reactivated. Deep in the Terran Security Council's subterranean complex in Geneva, General Mara Voss stared at the flickering hologram with unblinking eyes. Around her, admirals, scientists, linguists, and even philosophers sat in tense silence. "It's real," muttered Dr. Liang, the lead xenolinguist. "It's not a challenge. It's a ritual. A rite of passage. They do this once every few thousand years. A tournament of species." "A tournament for what?" Voss asked. Liang hesitated. "To prove what it means to be worthy. The last species that won ascended to some kind of godhood. They were erased from material existence." Whispers broke out across the chamber. "We're not ready," someone said. "We're not qualified," said another. But the rules, as translated, were clear. Any sentient species may send one champion. No technological limits. No species barred. No second chances. And then the AI, core helix, broke the silence. "I have analyzed the parameters. Victory is statistically improbable. However, participation is mathematically legal. One human meets the required thresholds, Elias Kade." The name dropped like a stone into a still pond. Elias Kade had not been a soldier for over a decade. Once the youngest commander in Earth's orbital forces, he'd earned a reputation for brilliance on the battlefield, but also defiance. He disobeyed orders to save civilians. He walked away from promotions. After witnessing a massacre on Titan caused by unchecked AI aggression, he vanished from public life. He was found teaching philosophy to colonist children on Europa. When the delegation arrived at his frozen habitat dome, he didn't look surprised. "I figured it would come to this," he said, watching the stars through the dome's glass. "Humanity loves a good suicide mission." General Voss made her appeal personally. "You won't survive," she admitted. "But you'll represent everything we are. Everything we believe." Kade smirked. "I've represented Earth before, General. Didn't like the pay. This time," she said, "you'll be representing more than just Earth. You'll be representing the idea that power isn't just destruction. That maybe strength can evolve." That gave him pause. He turned to the stars again. "If this is real, I need to know what we're up against. They're not warriors. They're gods. So were the tyrants we overthrew. So were the machines we broke. God is just a title someone hasn't bled for yet." 3 days later, he stood inside the transport chamber of the Deadless Ascendant, dressed not in armor, but in the simple uniform of a Terran expeditionary, gray, worn, and unadorned. Scientists tried to give him weapons. Engineers tried to install enhancements. He refused them all. "If strength is all they know," he said, "then they'll never understand what I'm about to show them." With a flash of iridescent light, the chamber blinked him out of existence. In the empty silence that followed, General Voss whispered into the cold air. "Gods or not, they've never fought a human. Gods, monsters, and mortals." Elias Kade woke up weightless, suspended in a bubble of golden light that hummed with an energy he could feel in his bones. Time didn't exist here, not as a stream, but as something that curled around itself like a serpent. Around him was nothing. And then, suddenly, everything. The celestial arena bloomed into existence like a god inhaling creation. He stood on a vast platform suspended in the void, thousands of miles wide, carved from obsidian that pulsed with life. Above him, stars spiraled in impossible patterns. Below, gravity-defying islands floated, each carrying battlegrounds, sanctuaries, or weapons from civilizations long dead. The tournament of the Ascended had begun. Spectators, if that word still meant anything, watched from thrones of plasma and nebulae. Some were the size of planets. Others were little more than clusters of radiant consciousness. The Pantheon, Kade realized, wasn't just hosting the tournament. They were the judges, the audience, the architects of this divine Colosseum. A voice, calm and ancient, echoed across the arena, not through sound, but through thought. Welcome, contenders. You are the strongest your species have ever birthed. Here, you will prove your worth, not to us, but to the very laws of reality. Let the trials begin. Kade was not the first to arrive, nor the most intimidating. To his right, a massive warrior floated in midair, wrapped in shifting armor that resembled liquid stone. His skin shimmered like molten lava, and his eyes were twin furnaces of war. He was Vraxtor, champion of Velgrin Prime, a species that lived for conquest and bred in battlefields. He had reportedly slaughtered a moon-sized hive mind for sport. To Kade's left, a graceful figure levitated on a platform of psychic energy. Her body was crystalline, humanoid in shape but ethereal, as if sculpted from starlight and song. This was Myelitha, Empress of the Mindspire Galaxy. She had ruled her empire for 10,000 years, bending entire fleets with thought alone. Others appeared in flashes of brilliance or eruptions of flame. Machine beings of pure logic. Vaporous entities that fed on neutron fields. Biological anomalies evolved for a single purpose, to dominate. Kade just stood there, flesh and blood, 5'11", hands tucked in the pockets of his coat. He felt like a tourist at a Pantheon cosplay event. And yet, despite the surreal scope of what stood before him, a strange calm settled in his chest. Because while they looked powerful, they expected power to look like them. That was their first mistake. The first round was announced with no fanfare, sudden, brutal, and immediate. Kade found himself transported to a coliseum of shifting stone, with crimson skies above and jagged terrain below. Opposite him stood a titan, 12 feet tall, made of living crystal, with limbs like swords and a face etched with runes. Begin. The titan charged. Kade didn't move. He didn't need to. Not yet. As the beast lunged, Kade rolled sideways, narrowly avoiding a downward strike that shattered the platform beneath him. He analyzed the crystal's movement, its delay between attacks, its stride, its weakness. He didn't fight it head-on. He studied it. Let the monster show its tricks first. Minutes passed. Kade ducked, dodged, and never struck. The crowd grew confused. Was this cowardice? Was he stalling? Then it happened. The titan, in its rage, stomped the ground with both feet, activating a pressure plate Kade had noticed 10 seconds earlier. With a deafening boom, the platform beneath the titan collapsed, revealing a gravity well that sucked the crystal beast into a glowing core of light. It screamed, once, then vanished. The crowd roared. Not with admiration, but with disbelief. The human had won. Not with strength, but with awareness. Later, in the observation chamber, little more than a floating platform of energy, Myelitha approached him. "You are not the strongest," she said. "You are not even the fastest. How did you survive?" Kade shrugged. "Strength is knowing when not to fight." Vraxtor overheard and scoffed. "That was not a battle. That was luck wrapped in cowardice." Kade turned to face him. "Or maybe it was something you can't understand, strategy." The war god glared at him but said nothing. That night, or whatever passed for night in a timeless realm, Kade sat on the edge of a floating shard, staring into the void. He wasn't here to win every battle. He was here to challenge something bigger, the very definition of strength. And for the first time, he saw cracks forming in the armor of these so-called gods. They had ruled for millennia, unchallenged. But now, they had a new competitor. A human. And he wasn't playing by their rules. Trial of souls. There was no warning. One moment, Elias Kade stood on solid ground. The next, he plunged into darkness. No stars. No sky. No arena. Just a suffocating black void that swallowed sound, sight, and time itself. Then, slowly, almost gently, a voice echoed within his skull. Power is not only flesh. Now you must face the weight of self. Kade didn't move. He couldn't. The void wasn't a place, it was himself. His mind was the battlefield now. A dim light blinked into being in front of him. It was a campfire. Familiar. Warm. Around it, shadows moved. And then he saw them. Faces from the past. Private Rios. Corporal Len. Lieutenant Branagh. Men and women who had followed him on the mission to Titan Station, the same mission that went wrong. The same mission that haunted his sleep. You left us, Rios said, his voice empty. We trusted you, whispered Branagh, blood soaking her chest. No orders. No plan. Just chaos. Kade clenched his jaw. I tried to save you. I did everything I could. But it wasn't enough, said Len, stepping closer. His face was pale. You made the call. You got us killed. The guilt hit like a blade. Years had passed, but here, time bent like emotion. Pain resurfaced raw and fresh, bleeding through the facade of control he wore so well. This wasn't just memory. This was judgment. A trial of the soul. In another chamber, high above this psychic torment, the Pantheon observed. Myelitha watched in silent fascination. Vraxtor folded his arms and scoffed. The machine being Zoromonius emitted a pulse of data. Why test the mind? Vraxtor grumbled. It is strength in combat that defines a warrior. But Myelitha replied softly, no. It is endurance in silence that defines a being's core. Inside the trial, Kade sank to his knees. He wasn't battling gods. He was battling himself, the version of him that failed. That doubted. That still grieved. The fire flickered. The ghosts waited. He could collapse. Let the guilt consume him. Let the gods see what they expected, weakness. But instead, he looked into the faces of the dead and spoke with quiet steel. I carry you every day. I remember your names, your laughs, your loyalty. I don't pretend I was perfect. But I never stopped trying. I never stopped caring. The ghosts didn't vanish. But they stepped back. Not gone. Forgiven. The fire flared white. And the darkness broke. Kade opened his eyes, gasping. He was back in the arena. No wounds, no bruises. But something inside him felt cleaner. Lighter. Around him, several competitors still twitched and convulsed, lost in their trials. One, a creature made of pure light, fractured and blinked out of existence. Another, a telepathic hive being, had collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. Kade stood. Not unscathed. But unbroken. Later, he found a small figure curled near one of the gravitic fountains, an alien child no larger than a backpack, body translucent and flickering. It was Cylon, the youngest competitor, representing a dying star caste. She hadn't moved since the trials began. She was barely breathing. Still stuck in the loop. Kade asked gently, kneeling beside her. A weak pulse of light blinked from her chest. I see my ancestors. I failed them. I wasn't ready. Kade could have walked away. She was his competition. Her collapse meant one less obstacle. But that wasn't why he was here. He placed a hand on her shoulder. You're here because your people believed in you. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Just real. Her eyes, silver and swirling, met his. Together, they sat. No battle. No speeches. Just presence. And when Cylon rose, trembling but whole, the gods noticed. Later that cycle, in the Hall of Reverence, where results were recorded in glowing glyphs, Kade's symbol moved up the spire once more. Not because he fought, but because he healed. From her throne of crystal light, Myelitha turned to the Pantheon's inner circle. There is a lesson here. A power we forgot. Compassion is not power, said Vraxtor, voice like thunder. No, she said, but it is strength. That night, Kade stood on the arena's edge again, staring into the void. The gods thought strength was about dominance. But here he was, just a man, carving a new definition with every choice. And they were watching. All of them. The final clash. Redefinition. The arena changed again, but this time, Elias Kade knew it wasn't a battlefield. It was a statement. He stood on a circular platform suspended in a maelstrom of stars. Comets sliced the dark. Galaxies spiraled in slow motion. Beneath his feet, the stone glowed with ancient inscriptions, shifting like river currents, histories of past champions. Gods. Monsters. Tyrants. Legends. And now, a human. Across from him stood Vraxtor, war god of Velgrin Prime. Towering. Armored in obsidian. Veins pulsing with volcanic light. He was what every species feared, the embodiment of brute strength, of conflict perfected. No spectators spoke. No judge announced the final round. There was no need. This was the last duel. Strength versus something else entirely. Vraxtor's voice cracked the silence. You've amused the pantheon, human. But this ends now. The old ways endure. They always do. Kade didn't answer. He didn't need to. He just breathed, rolled his shoulders, and stepped forward. The war god charged. Faster than anything his size should move, Vraxtor closed the distance and struck with a gauntlet fist. Kade dodged by inches, letting the god's blow shatter the platform beneath them. The human moved like water, flowing, deflecting, absorbing, but never striking first. Not yet. You won't win by dancing. Vraxtor bellowed, his second strike unleashing a wave of heat that melted part of the arena's edge. I'm not here to win, Kade said calmly, backing into the shadow of a collapsed archway. I'm here to show you what you've forgotten. Another blow came, this one clipped his shoulder, sending him spinning. Pain exploded in his nerves. His vision blurred. He dropped to one knee. Vraxtor raised his fist, ready to crush him, but stopped. Kade was laughing. Blood on his lip, arm trembling, eyes focused. You're powerful, he said. No one questions that. But you've never lost. Never failed. Never doubted. That's not strength. That's insulation. Vraxtor's eyes narrowed. You dare. Yes, Kade interrupted. I dare. Because you think strength is domination. But real strength. It's what you do when you can dominate, but choose not to. The gods watching said nothing. But something shifted. The platform hummed louder. The glyphs began to rearrange. Kade stood again. No weapons. No tricks. Just a man. You want to finish this, he said. Fine. Hit me. End it. He spread his arms wide. Defenseless. Vraxtor stepped forward. The war god hesitated. For the first time, he hesitated. You're not afraid, he growled. No, Kade replied. Because I already won. He looked up, not at the god, but at the watching pantheon. You built this tournament to glorify strength, to reward the most dominant. But strength isn't just force. It's restraint, compassion, sacrifice. You forgot that. Silence. And then, the platform shattered, not from force, but from change. Glyphs peeled away from the stone and swirled into the sky, rewriting themselves in new patterns. Light cascaded around Kade, engulfing him in waves of soft, golden fire. The god stood, not in rage, but in revelation. For the first time in millennia, the definition of strength evolved. Later, when the arena dissolved and the tournament ended, Kade found himself before the pantheon, not as a challenger, but as something more. A voice spoke, not one, but many, unified. You did not win. You transformed. Not with weapons, but with wisdom. A pulse of light expanded outward, from Kade to the stars. Humanity shall be granted access. A seat among the ascended. And a reminder to all that strength is not dominance, but choice. Kade stood quietly as the stars shifted. He didn't cheer. Didn't weep. He just breathed. Because somewhere deep down, he'd known this wasn't about power. It was about showing that the most fragile thing in the universe, a single human life, could still shake the foundation of gods. Not by crushing, but by changing. Back on Earth, a statue would be raised in his honor. Children would study his words. The pantheon would never be the same. But Elias Kade would remain what he always was. A soldier who chose not to kill. A warrior who chose to forgive. A man who taught the gods what strength really meant.